This is the thing with LeBron James teams. Every year, there's always a team that's threatening. Every year, there's always somebody that's going to knock them off. Somebody that sweeps the season series against them, gives them a tough run. Chicago Bulls is one of those teams. The Atlanta Hawks are one of those teams.
We'll go to Hoops Junction.
The Cavaliers have fallen out of the first place in the Eastern Conference, and everybody is, shooting their flares off. They're saying Mayday, Mayday, SOS. And I think these notions of the Cavaliers dwindling out are very premature. Number one, LeBron James, especially in Miami, he was able to win championships coming out as a 2 seed before. Just because you're the number 1 seed doesn't mean you always win the NBA championship. So that's for starters. The Houston Rockets, I believe they won it as a 5th seed before. I think one of the seasons they went back-to-back. So the standings are not as important. Like home court advantage is not as important in the East for Cleveland as it is for, let's just say, a Golden State or San Antonio Spurs team. Because in the West, any team, the top 3 teams could knock each other off, and on any given night. But in the East, Cleveland is not really facing a lot of competition that is threatening. And I say this because this entire season, we have not seen Cleveland play their best basketball yet. And I've said that before. It's just like they're going through the motions. J.R. Smith was out. They got him back. Still trying to incorporate him, especially defensively. You saw that with LeBron James told Tyronn Lue to pull him, take him out. Kevin Love got injured. They just got him back. They're still incorporating him. They just got a new piece in Darren Williams. They're trying to incorporate. They're trying to incorporate Kyle Korver. So there's a lot of incorporation, and I think that's the reason why their defense is ranked 22nd in the NBA right now. I don't really think it's a function of them, playing their best and they just can't beat teams. I just think there's a lot of moving parts. And that's the thing, when you're trying to repeat, you got to be careful the amount of people that you replace. I remember with the Lakers, we traded Trevor Ariza and we brought in Ron Artest, and we almost lost the championship because the Celtics were up 3-2 on us, and they came to LA and they lost. And in Game 7 we won. But at the end of the day, you can see where when you're introducing new parts, the team can struggle a bit. Even when the Lakers tried to go for a 3-peat, they couldn't do it because there was just too many moving parts. Cleveland is facing the same kind of issue right now. There's a lot of moving parts. You got a lot of guys, a lot of older guys that, now you're asking them to play a lot of defense, and you still want them to knock down shots. One or the other is going to suffer. Either they're going to make a ton of shots and not play great defense, or they're going to play great defense, but they can't really keep up on offensive production. Cleveland is actually one of the oldest teams in the Eastern Conference. But I don't think that anybody should be worried about them, because this is the thing with LeBron James teams. Every year, there's always a team that's threatening. Every year, there's always somebody that's going to knock them off. Somebody that sweeps the season series against them, gives them a tough run. Chicago Bulls is one of those teams. The Atlanta Hawks are one of those teams. Here's the deal overall. When Cleveland gets in the playoffs, or, any LeBron James teams post, since he went to Miami and then came back to Cleveland, he's been sweeping teams in the first round. Point blank period. He always finds a way to sweep teams because teams always find a way to mentally break down. And if you can't give LeBron credit for anything, or, if you don't want to give him credit for being one of the best players in the game or whatever, and here's one of the things that he does best in the game. He has such a huge intimidation factor, because I've never seen a superstar that just garners so much respect from his peers where they're not really challenging him. Every team that he's played in the playoffs in the past, I would say 3 or 4 seasons, because back Indiana gave him a real challenge. I believe that those series went 60. Even one of the Indiana series went 5 games. So a lot of the teams that he faces, he just dismantles them. And then the real challenge for him comes in the NBA Finals. But you got to give him a ton of respect. He puts the fear of God in a lot of teams. You'll watch the team play the Cavs in the regular season. It looks like they have a pretty solid game plan. They know how to play it against the team. They go into the playoffs and they can't contain LeBron, or they can't stop the passing, or they double LeBron for no reason, or they double Kyrie for no reason. We are gonna see that same kind of pattern. It says you gotta be careful and watch history because it might repeat itself, and it sure has, especially for Cleveland, and especially for LeBron James-led teams the past 6 years. He's been to 6 straight NBA Finals, and that's for a reason. One of the main reasons is teams are just scared to death of him. You you can see how they game plan. They overemphasize him. Some series, he doesn't even like average 20, 25 points. You know, like there's been a couple series he averaged 21 points. But he's just so potent and lethal that they just, I think they overestimate him. They overestimate him, and they do things that are out of character, such as pre-rotating for no reason. You saw that in the Detroit series last year. They pre-rotated and gave the Cavs a ton of wide open threes. You know, the season before last, the Atlanta Hawks did the same exact thing. Start pre-rotating for no reason, and they got swept. They got swept without Kevin Love, and I believe at the time without Kyrie. I want to say without Kevin Love and Kyrie, but it could have just been without Kevin Love. So LeBron James has most of the Eastern Conference figured out. He knows how to intimidate guys into doing things that they're not supposed to do, and I believe that the Cavs are going to be fine. And the thing that is really exceptional about what he does every single year, he lulls teams to sleep. You know, they'll take the season series, or they'll be pretty good against the Cavs. Then all of a sudden, it's like the Cavs switch up, they ramp it up, and they play a different style of basketball. So they kind of show weakness during the regular season, but in the playoffs, it's a different ball game. So I'm not really too worried. Only thing that could be worrisome is if other teams have picked up on their act. If other teams know, like, okay, this is not their best punch, so when we play them in the playoffs, we have to go even harder. And that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for teams to actually go at Cleveland, like how the Warriors go at them, how the San Antonio Spurs go at them. All the Western Conference teams, they go at Cleveland's neck. But a lot of the Eastern Conference teams in the playoffs, they just don't do it. They just like fall back, like just like it's LeBron. Like, we can't do that. We can't, we can't play them straight up 1-on-1, or we can't double them, or it's so odd. It's odd. If you look at the top teams in NBA, which are besides Cleveland in the East, there are really not that many top teams in the East. But the top teams, they figure out a way to not even contain LeBron, but play him straight up sometimes. But all the other teams in the Eastern Conference, they just don't do it. They just panic, and they start falling back into their bad habits, and LeBron picks them apart. And he's made it to 6 straight finals, and this for a reason. So this is not too worrisome. Only thing is if people catch up on the act. If you know it's an act, if you know that, okay, they're losing these games, but it's really like stoop for what they're going to do in the playoffs. So I just hope teams are ready for that, because I think once they get into the playoffs, they're going to have rest, they're going to have time to practice. I think LeBron and company, they're going to be just fine. I think Jared's going to start knocking down shots. Kevin Love the same. So, you can't expect them to be a model consistency when they have injuries, and J.R. Smith is an inconsistent player. Kevin Love has been an inconsistent player on Cleveland. You can't expect them to play consistently well throughout the regular season, especially the way that they're made up. They're like LeBron said, they're top heavy. Being top heavy means that you don't know where the rest of their production can come in, and that's what's dangerous about them. It's a weakness, but it's a great danger, because that's how you get Shannon Fry knocking down a ton of shots. That's how you can get a Kyle Korver dialing it in. That's how you can get a J.R. Smith all of a sudden on fire. Things like that happen, and that's why LeBron James has been able to go to 6 straight finals, maybe a 7th. This is Vlad from Hoops Junction, where Hoops meets Hoopla. Peace.